Hi everyone, the following video is a recording of our 56th Artist Feedback AMA session. The session was held in the MetaJungle Discord on December 7th and hosted by the talented Mike Schmidt and Steve Bennett. We want to thank Mike and Steve for taking the time to review 8 different NFT collections and editions and providing feedback. We also want to thank all the artists who submitted their work for review and everyone that was able to attend. We hope you find this useful, and with that, let's get into it.
Delighted to have you here today. I'm gonna start sharing my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. And I believe if you click on my name now, you can see that I'm just looking at the chat room. But if I minimize this, you can now see that I have Steve's link tree open, which is like a big link tree, a big and long link tree. You can still hear me, Steve?
Yep, I can hear you just fine and can see you just fine.
Okay, great. See me, hear me, everything is good then. So yeah, I just I read a bit about you today, and I was super surprised. He said you had 50 years of photography or art under your belt, and I didn't think you looked that old to have that that much time under your belt. But man, that's truly commendable. How do you stay committed for so long? I mean, I have about 16 or 17 years as a photographer, and I think I know the answer for myself, but I'd love to hear it from you. Like, how do you continue to create art for 50 years without becoming jaded or whatnot?
Well, first of all, and thank you very much. There are gaps in there. I mean, at one point, I had graduate school, which I hated. At one point, I traded in my gear for a motorcycle when Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance came out, and I was an idiot and didn't keep one camera. So, there were some gaps there, but the technology has changed so much over time. And
oh my gosh, yeah, in 50 years, I mean, you're looking at going from film cameras, film photography to okay digital photography to now like some pretty damn good digital photography and some editing that could actually sort of make digital feel like film. Maybe not exactly, but yeah, you've seen a lot, right?
Yeah, oh, very, very much so. And I miss the darkroom. I like to say that I was born in a developer tray. My father was a radiologist and an avid photographer, and I miss film, and that I'm actually want to get back into it.
I do too. When I graduated from School of Visual Arts in the first year as a freshman. We couldn't shoot digital. They made us shoot film, and so they had cameras for us to rent from the building, and they helped us with the paying of the processing of it. And the darkroom is like a very meditative experience, and it smells a certain way, and there's just something really, really interesting about it where you can get lost in it. And the tangible aspect of holding your creations and dodging and burning is a really, really cool thing. I just don't have the ability to really do all that right now. I mean, I live far from Manhattan, which would have dark rooms, which is about an hour and a half from me, and it's just very, very expensive to shoot film and then to get the scans online, like quality scans. It's at some point it becomes like $1 to $2 an image, depending on what you're shooting, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's who knows what to come up with next. There's an interesting company up here, Digital Silver Imaging, where it's kind of it's a hybrid, and that you shoot digital, and then what they do is they make they make an actual negative, and then wet process the paper, and then it's printed out, and it's pretty amazing. It's RC silver gelatin prints, and the tonality is mind-boggling. I mean, it's as sweet as analog, but it also has a little bit of that crispness from digital. So there are interesting approaches out there.
Yeah, awesome. Good to hear. your backstory and that you've come from. Obviously, you've had to come from film with that many decades. I don't know if you said there were many gaps, right? There's gaps for me too, right? Like I haven't shot for 16 years straight. Like there's been times where like a year I was depressed or something and didn't know why I was taking photos and didn't, or other reasons in my life. But it always seems that I come back to photography because I believe self-expression and art is a way for me to sort of get lost outside of my thoughts and be in like a flow state and sort of feel like I'm closer to I don't know, the spirit version of myself, or whatever the version of myself that's more instinctual and less thinking about the past and the future, and kind of living in the present moment. So that's sort of what's kept me motivated there. So I mean, I went through a lot of your stuff here and it's on Linktree. You got a whole section for NFT. I like how it's organized. I got to figure out how to organize mine like this, NFTs, videos. But I was really kind of blown away by these micro worlds, which we're not going to be able to hear. But I think you guys should go back in and listen to these with sound, because they really are quite beautiful in the way that you present them, the sounds and the movement and the detail is just unreal. So I just wanted to show this.
Well, thank you. You mentioned that you had gaps, but you keep coming back to it. I would dare say, I'm just getting to know you. You went back because you had to go back. I mean, it's in your blood. It's in your DNA. You're made to shoot, and I think all of us who are serious about photography, it is really in our blood. Even if we take there's a hiatus, we come back, and for whatever reasons. One of the things that brought me back and into the digital age was in the 90s. In one of my incarnations, I was a professional spokesperson for technology companies and a lot of major companies. I was doing media for them, and I was doing various demos. I was also a tech journalist. I had to tread carefully about the line there. But Hewlett-Packard hired me to help them with their first PhotoSmart camera. And this is hysterical. I mean, it was the size of a brick. It was ridiculous. And it had a 0.5 megapixel sensor. And I mean, the first iPhone blew that away. But anyways, so I traveled around the country with Hewlett-Packard staff, and we'd set up pavilions, and Mr. PhotoSmart would demonstrate how it worked. I kind of felt like Edwin Land when he first introduced the Polaroid camera. There were crowds of people, and people would come up, and we'd show them, we'd take their picture, and then the HP staff would take over in terms of the printers. Obviously for HP, this was a razor blade strategy. They were after the consumables. But anyhow, I got to keep the thing, and it was really, I started playing with it, and I said, well, this is actually not very good, but it could become good. And within, I don't know, early 2000s, I bought a real digital camera, an Nikon D40, and then after that, it was just, all in.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, that's wild. 0.5 megapixels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is like, I like to preach that sort of like, they're all just tools, and they're different tools for different jobs. But I'm sure there's somebody out there that could create a really compelling collection even with 0.5 megapixels. Probably be harder, but I'm sure it can be done. But yeah, I just wanted to give a little brief introduction about you. I noticed you don't have your I don't think you have your blog on here for the the COVID collection and stuff? Is that something you plan on putting on your link?
Oh, the pandemic lens, yeah, that's getting completely overhauled, a completely separate account. But that's a great idea, Mike. I should put it on there. And also, I need to wrap your knuckles. You owe me some content, friend. But
I do. Yes, I do. We'll talk about that today. I'll have free time. My girlfriend
okay,
goes
no, no, I'm
to
just
work
kidding.
for 3 days now, so I'll have a
No, no, I'm just
lot
kidding
of
you.
free time. But yeah, no, thank you so much. Cool. So, with that, Steve, thanks. I'm super glad to have you here. And
Oh, I'm
so
honored. Yeah.
I'll close this, and I think we'll move on to the first collection. We have Evan and Evan Mann. He's in the space here. We could unmute him while we talk about the collection. Jaden, if that's cool. If he has any questions, or if you have any questions for Evan, unless he has background noise, But window frames. Well, before I get into window frames, you guys can see the questions that I posted. They are in live AMA live chat here, and these are questions from the artists. So window frames. Evan Mann asks, and I'm not going to come back to this. I'm going to look at this off my phone, but you guys can find it here. It's also in Feedback AMA. There's a little open chat bubble where you guys could ask questions in here as well, and the questions are there also. So people have been talking a lot in here. And so, Steve, if you, time to time, if you could, maybe make sure we're going over these questions and stuff, that would be cool. Evan asks, was 25 pieces in the middle of a bear market too many? Are the best ones sold already, even though art is subjective? I think I messed up when I put ARE, but art is subjective. So let's take a look at window frames, which is actually a collection that I own 2 pieces from. I really do like this collection. As a photographer myself, I like to shoot a lot through windows and get that perspective of reflections and stuff like that. So first thing I noticed though is, let's see, hold on. Banner looks pretty good. I like this opening image that's being used here. But creator fee 8%. I wonder why you didn't opt for like 10% royalty fees and you went with 8%. Maybe you have a reasoning for that, but I like to get 10. So I'll read the artist statement. It has been said that the eyes are the window to the soul. This collection examines and extrapolates this theorem, featuring photos as the medium. Through these windows, I invite you to take a look at the yin and yang of the human condition while balancing projected fantasy with stark reality. Window Frames is a collection of 25 unique one-of-ones shot through different windows of New York City. I like that artist statement. It's short. It's to the point. It doesn't give anything away about any of the images. It allows us to use our imagination to kind of fill the gap about what this collection is about. I know this collection wasn't minted too long ago, and to have 13 or outside of yourself 12 owners is good. Is very good. It was created October 2022, so a couple months. But in this bear market, I think it's good to have that many owners. And I've looked through here. You have some pretty good owners in here. And so let's take a look through some of the shots. One of the questions was, are the best ones sold? So the ones we're looking at the top first are shots that are not sold. I'm just going to quickly go through these without opening them up. And then now we get into starting at this one that was relisted for 1 ETH, the ones that are sold. Take a look at these. This piece here, Mind Chatter, is one that I own. I really love this piece. All 3 girls' expressions, it's so different. The girl in the middle seems to be the subject of the image. I love that great composition and decisive moment. And So all these sold ones are. This is another one that I own, the Wonder Train. I love this. It's very hard to capture a reflection sometimes through the window, because a lot of times the reflected parts are actually very busy, and they go across the subject's face. But when we look at this, that expression is a great expression. The kid's looking out. You see the lines in the hat. I think it's a perfect representation of shot, reflection shot through the window, and just these clouds up here. They add so much. So the ones that I bought are in the category of the ones that are already sold. But looking at some of the ones, let me minimize this part, and let's go ahead and look at it like this, because this is a nice view that you get to look at it in, right? Let's take a look at some of the ones that aren't sold. I think there's some strong ones in here, right? This one stands out to me. Let's see what it's called. Caught Off Guard. I love that contrast. I love the detail on the man. Double frame is really interesting. We got that eye contact. That's great. This is beautiful too. It looks good. Kill. Last Train Home. I think these are all really strong pieces. Love Note to number 1. Let me open this up. I love the moment that's happening here. It looks like it might almost be the end of the day, and maybe he's cashing out with the receipts, or maybe even he's writing a letter to a loved one. It's called Love Note to no one. Or maybe he's on his phone. I'm not sure, but I don't feel like he's on his phone. It feels like a really nice and genuine moment. I'm not sure if the yellows are too warm for me or not. I know we don't have warmth out here, but it's a really nice image. And then this image, of all the images that I've looked at, I think this image distracts me the most. What used to be, and I love his expression, but I kind of just really wish that this, the butt of this bike rider wasn't taking up 25% or more of the actual frame. So maybe a crop could be done here, or some burning and dodging or something, to the point where this is a little less visible, and the central focus is more aligned with here. But this is one where I feel like I know, Evan, that I can already see how good you can be, to the point where that one feels like a bit of a weaker one within the collection when we're looking at stuff like this shot, where it's just, gosh, zooming in and zooming out. But yeah, this shot really, we got the sunlight coming through, highlighting on this man who is eating pizza, which makes sense. You got the pizza, neon pizza sign, the yellows, the color relationship, the yellows matching the hat. Blue goes so well with yellow. Red, just the red on top. This is just fantastic, right? So the question that you had was, is the best pieces already sold? I think some of them. I think Wonder Train is one of the best pieces, at least for me. This is all subjective. Trouble on the Six is really, really nice piece. True Blue is really interesting because it's like he kind of becomes one with these like little miniature mannequins, because it just blends right in. Soul Glance, I think, is one of my favorite. And of course, Alpha Trilogy came in and swooped that up immediately. It feels just as what you're saying here, like a soul glance. Like this kid is really looking right into us. As you as the photographer and me as the viewer. And I love this half frame being white. Looks like you shot through maybe like a pole or something. I always like when photographers add dimension by shooting through things. So my overall take would be that there are some really great ones that are already sold, but Caught Off Guard, Flux Could Kill, Double Frame's pretty cool to me. Um, you know, Love Note to No One and Rash Train Home. Let's look at Muted. I think Muted is pretty good too. I love the stare that you got back here. So I do think there's some strong ones that are left here. Do I think that the strongest ones are sold? Yeah, probably because they're sold. And there's some great ones in here, but I'll focus on the ones that aren't. So for me, what used to be with that distraction, and then also I'd say Candy Crush. Um, it feels the subject is up here, I think, because we're talking about eye contact, but a lot of that eye contact is kind of distracted here in this reflection, and there's a lot of busyness to this. There's a lot going on. I'm not sure if I'm crazy about how all of these color relationships go together. I think the temperature is a bit off. If I like to look at white shirts, like we're not looking at outside the train because outside the train looks like the temperature's correct. If we look inside though, I like to look at whites and neutral colors. This looks like it should be white, and it has a lot of yellows or maybe even greens in this. So maybe this could be correct through color temperature. That being said, though, I've talked a lot. I really love this collection. That being said, I would love to pass off to Steve and get an idea on how Steve feels about the collection, and I guess some of the questions that were asked by Evan.
Sure. I thought that was a great analysis here, and I concur with it. I think the statement is very good in that it's global. It applies to all of them. I like the fact that it's written in simple English and plain English, and it's not pretentious. And I think it's a real good setup to get into all of the images. I think that all of the sold images are quite strong, and I agree with Mike that there still are a few gems out here. I think one of the reasons that the ones that sold is because you just are drawn in, and
Look at that, right?
yeah, and you just basically are connecting with that person, and are at least you can try to imagine what it is that they're thinking or experiencing. The ones that are more snapshotty, I don't think do that. I think the weakest one is your opening one with the first one. What's it called there? Are we there yet? And to me, that's not in the same caliber as the other ones. Largely, the guy sees you, he's waving, and it's almost like you happen to be there and take a snapshot. I think that the ones that don't work for me are in that category. They're they're more snapshots, not strong photos. But by and large, I think the whole collection is really, really good. I love the ones that were sold, and I regret not being in there early myself. But who knows? I might still dip back
Yeah,
into
at 0.1, right? I mean,
yeah, no, it's
there's 0.1. They're one of ones. Evan is an amazing New York City photographer. He's one of the best,
yeah.
and he can create a cohesive collection like this. I mean, the price point was really good for me at the time, so because and I love the collection, so I happened to grab two. I totally agree with you on this shot though too. It's like in photography, I feel like there's a decisive moment and there's moments between moments, and it's the I think it's the guy for me the most that's taken away from this. My favorite in the photo is actually the wife or the girlfriend or whoever. She has to me the most genuine expression happening, and the kid just feels sort of like he's a little nervous about what's going on and why this guy's taking a photo. So I think there's a moment that was in here that could have been the moment, but I'm not sure that this one is. And I think that there's a lot of photographs within here that are that moment, like you said, Steve. And I didn't mean to cut you off there. It's just,
Oh, it's okay. I mean,
Mhm.
I think Silk Road and Drip Train are absolutely two I mean, they're all outstanding. The ones that have been collected. Those two really, really speak to me. What I like about Drip Train is, and great title by the way, is that in addition to the expression is a bit inscrutable, and when you put the drops on top of that, it becomes even more mysterious. Same thing with Silk Road. We don't have drops there, but she's layered behind the glass, and I think that's an absolutely stunning photograph there. So, by the way, this one called Muted, let's DM afterwards. I'd love to publish that in the Pandemic Lens, which will get you some exposure. And I take it that's fairly recent.
Yeah, Muted's right here. I wonder, this is Evan's first time really using Discord. He said he doesn't use it much. Jaden, have you tried to mute Evan? And then Evan, if you want to talk, you should be able to press the unmute button. Would love to hear from you. Oh, okay, no problem. And as always, guys, it's okay if you can't come up and talk because spaces are always recorded. Jaden gets them up on YouTube fairly quickly, within usually like 2 to 3 days. So that's totally fine. But, okay, cool. So let's get back to it. So his other question. So you wanted to know when this was? Let me see when this was minted. Okay, let me go back.
I'd like to know when it was taken, actually.
Oh, taken.
That's okay. We could create it October 20th. No, whatever. We can figure that out. But anyhow, I think it's a great shot. And I also agree with you with the taxi cab and where we've got the person's bicyclist posterior in there. I don't think there's anything you can do with that.
I know it's a great shot too. It's just that's what made it. I mean, it could have been a great shot. It's a good shot. I think that's what makes it a good shot is that that person is in the frame. And sometimes that just happens and there's nothing you could do. You just, a famous photo editor once said to me, sometimes you just have to put it on the refrigerator. You might really like it. Maybe sometimes it just doesn't fit in the collection. It's not the strongest to be in the collection. You sort of feel that way about this. I think it could have been great because I love his expression. But yeah, it is what it is, right? This stuff happens.
Sometimes the butt just gets in the way.
Someone's butt just gets in the way sometimes. Sometimes just there's a booty in the way. And so let's, before we answer his other question, let's go in and see how he did with. Let's see how he did. So it's been said that it's not, there's not individual descriptions for each one. It looks like this is the artist statement, and that's fine for some. Some collectors do like a little description about the individual image. Let's look at properties. So properties, artist Evan Mann. I always say the most important properties are the artist name and the edition size, which is not here. So that's one thing I would say. If you sold images already, well, this must have been minted on Manifold because the photos open so quickly. Look at this, like how quickly they open. On the OpenSea ones take me forever. So on Manifold, you could actually edit and still, even if the image is full, I'm almost 100% positive, almost. I've read this, that you could still edit and you can add that property. I think it's important to add all the same properties that you put in here, like one of ones. Maybe you can even put, limited to 25 pieces in the collection, whatever it is. in here because the properties, I believe, is the metadata for artwork on the NFT blockchain. So I think that this is what will carry over properties to other platforms, because I think we're going to be multi-platform in the future. That this will carry over more than the description will carry over. And does that make sense to you, Steve? That properties are important like that?
Oh, I think so too. And I had a question for you. Repeating the statement, it's that's okay, but I think what would help here would be the location where it was in terms of the cross street. What train was it? What station was it? It
That's
just
a great,
provides
great call.
little extra context, and I think that that would actually enhance these.
That's a great call, because now the collector has information on where this slice of time was. That's cool. Yeah, that's something you could add in too. Great. So his other question was it too much to mint 25 pieces during a bear market? I mean, he's already sold 12 during the bear market. My answer to this is with my collection, Lost in Transit. It's 100 pieces overall, or will be 100 pieces. Right now it's 80. Is that I only release 20 at a time, because I like to keep the collection like close to sold out. It's debatable on whether or not it really matters, but I like to keep it somewhat in an area of sold out. Or you could curate in a way that that sort of removes the images that are maybe just missing, or the images that are maybe the ones that just didn't hit the exact mark that some of the other ones did. And so if you had removed those, then you'd be closer to selling out during a bear market. So there's still that option. So I think there's a positive and a negative to releasing batches at a time rather than the whole collection. I think the positive to releasing in smaller batches is that it's easier to sell out that and then release the next batch after that's sold out. And it sort of always keeps a sold out collection, and whatever the positives to that are. And then, the positive to putting them up all at once is that you give the viewer a better idea about what the whole project is about, I think. If you do that, or it gives them more options to pick what resonates most with them. It's not always the best idea to give the most options if there are some photos that take away from the rest. And in this case, I think it's "Are We There Yet?" and "What Used to Be." And so that would be my answer on that 25 images during a bear market. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Steve.
Well, I think it's any market. There's an old truism that your portfolio is only as strong as the weakest link. And I think that especially having your weakest image being your lead image doesn't help. I mean, obviously these are selling, and you've done pretty well with these actually. But I mean, it's really hard to curate your own collection and figure out what's bringing it down. And sometimes it's emotionally hard to give it up. Sometimes you just love an image, and even though maybe in your heart of hearts it's not your strongest one. So I think maybe getting some feedback is always a good thing. But just remember that principle is that if you're not sure about an image and you don't just feel it in your gut that this is really strong, don't do it.
Yeah, agreed. So the polls for me would be "Are We There Yet?", "Candy Crush," and "What Used to Be." Outside of that, I think all of these are really hitting the mark, and I think that that people should be ready to come and pick these other ones up, because they make a cohesive sense to the rest of the ones in here, and a quality wise as well. With that being said, I don't really have anything else in this collection. I think it's great. You have all the information here, your Twitter, banner looks good. And doing a pretty good job. 12 owners so far. So the price is just really, really, really right for one of ones. So not right, but it's really it's really an opportunity for people is what I would say. I think these are worth more than that, but it's an opportunity. So if you didn't have anything else, then we can move on to the next collection, Steve.
I'm good. Great work. Thanks for
Cool,
presenting.
man. Yeah, thanks for anyone who submits or is willing to have their work put on the line to be critiqued by others. It's not easy to do that, but it helps with growth. And understand that me and Steve are just two opinions, and then it's always good to have multiple eyes on your work and get that second, third, fourth opinion as well. So with that being said, I'd love to move on to the next. This is an addition. The next addition. This is a duo, a spotted owlet, and this is by Arijit Mandal. And I know what an owl is, but I'm not exactly sure what an owlet is. Do you know the difference, Steve?
I don't actually.
Okay, that's fine. Let's read. Maybe it's in the description. So the spotted owlet, the Brahma, is a small owl, okay, which breeds in tropical Asia from mainland India to Southeast Asia. A common resident of open habitats, including farmland and human habitation. It's adapted to living in cities. They roost in small groups in the hollows of trees or in cavities in rocks or buildings. This species is nocturnal, but is often seen during the day. That's interesting. If they're nocturnal, they're often. Oh yeah, so if they're nocturnal, it means they're up all night, but they were also seen during the day. So they're insomniacs. These little owls. When disturbed, I'm sorry, from their daytime sight, they bob their head and stare at intruders. Their presence can often be located by the small birds that mob the owlets while they're perching in a tree during daytime. The call is a harsh and loud churring and chuckling, chirr, 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 ending with a chawak, chawak. And they call mainly during early dawn and just after sunset. They hunt a variety of insects and small vertebrates. The breeding season is November to April. Courtship behavior includes bill grasping, allopreening, and ritual feeding. The female may call with the male, bobhead, and deflect its tail in invitation. Interesting. So the description here is about these owls, and it's a short little lesson in what they're about and what they do and how they live, and it's interesting to learn because I've never heard of these spotted owlets, and they're from India. Really interesting. So the artist has 15 editions. And they were taken in 2018, and then they have the licensing information. Let's take a look at properties. 15 editions, and then in this one, it's the opposite of the last collection. There's no artist name under the properties. I think that's a really important one. But this artist does have the editions in here, and these other properties are pretty good too. So. Relatively good job on the properties. Just would like to have your name in there. Price wise, there are 15 editions, and 3 of them have sold, and they're at 0.0175, $21.52 USD each. If you were wondering about that, so it's pretty low for an edition, and I think that 15 is I think 15 is a relatively good number when it comes to scarcity. I think that's pretty good. Um, as far as the questions, let's see. Is this description, properties, and pricing okay? Yep, we talked about that. I talked about that at least. Want to have honest feedback on the photograph. Okay, so I'll give my honest feedback on the photograph. I am not a wildlife photographer. I do collect some wildlife. And so my feedback on this would be I definitely like the moment that's captured. It definitely feels like a decisive moment here. This owl's perched up on the branch looking out, and it looks like an owl's just in almost mid-flight, either dropping down onto him or getting ready to head out. It's a beautiful, decisive moment. The one thing for me would be probably the saturation or the edit on the image. When it comes to wildlife images, for me, I actually prefer like a more like true to life feel. So the greens, I'd say the greens in this are, for me, I'd probably play around with the hue on the greens and the saturation. I'd probably desaturate on some of that, and I think that would actually bring the eye more, and the central focus more on the actual owlettes than it would the actual environment. So as far as feedback on the photo, that would be like my honest feedback. Composition is pretty good. And the other question is, can I have more than one edition running simultaneously at a single point on a single chain? The answer is yeah. I mean, you can have anything you want, right? There's no black and white. For me personally, in a bear market, I'd rather just have one like body of work running at a single time, just because then you have to sort of like advertise and market multiple bodies of work. But Steve might have a different opinion on that. Would love to hear Steve's honest feedback on the actual photograph and description, properties, pricing, etc. Steve?
There we are. Okay. I had just lowered my desk from standing position to sitting, so I had to. Okay. So, yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that you said, and I have a couple of additions. First, in terms of the description, I'm assuming that this, well, it says this is a pre-mating ritual. I wouldn't bury that at the end there. I think that is, I'd put that right up front and then go into what these little creatures are all about there. And I think that that would explain more what's going on. You don't know if the first one's attacking or, I mean, it's got his, looks like he's kind of landed on the other one. We assume that the bigger one is the male. So I think that I'd move that up there, and that really is the context for this whole thing, and then the rest is background. So
I agree to that for sure. That's why I love having a co-host, because I didn't really put that two and two together on that one, but that makes a lot of sense, Steve, because that's telling us really like what's happening in this photograph, and then the rest is about what these birds are about. So I think that makes a lot of sense to have that up at the top.
The one way to think about these descriptive things is a three-tier hierarchy. So it's gotta know, good to know, optional. So what you really have to know in this is, what are these guys doing? And the next thing is that background. Yeah, good to know about these. But the fact is, you can enjoy the photograph and know that this is a pre-mating ritual without any of the other background. I like background, and some people like to read, some people don't like to read. So assume that people aren't going to read and give them the most essential thing up front. So good to know, rather gotta know, good to know, and optional there. Because that really does change, your interpretation of what's going on here. Now, one could argue if it's a great shot, you don't have to say anything. And in fact, you could enjoy this as a nature shot without knowing anything. But all of these things make it richer. I'm the kind of both artist and collector that the backstory is important to me. Photographically, I would agree with Mike on the green. It's almost too luminescent. Okay, and I don't know what things actually look like there. It almost looks slightly artificial. My suggestions on this picture, and I realize it's minted. I think it's a very strong photo, and I don't think you'll have trouble selling this thing. Two things are bugging me a little bit. One is down in the lower right, the branch there. I'm not sure what was going on. It looks like that was done in post, and it's kind of this muddy area down there, which I think distracts from it. I don't know if you used a like in Lightroom or Photoshop, one of the vignette filters or something. And I understand if you did that you were trying to have the eye focus on the subjects here. Anyhow, it's a little too muddy down there for me. I don't mind the one in the upper left so much. The one thing, though, about the birds themselves is I would bring the highlights down just a tad. If you look at the bird that's coming in hot, literally, and the edge, I can't move the cursor, but go down to the bottom there. Yeah, you see that white edge right there? That's pretty hot. And then go over to the other one who's being landed on.
Over here, look at this. Right, this is hot.
Yeah, I would either, I would lessen them just a hair there. The one on the right bothers me more in that my eye goes to it and it's not the most important part. The little tuft there, I think it does pull your eye there, but I think the cool things about these guys are the eyes. I mean, owl eyes are always remarkable, but look at the, now that we know that this is a pre-mating ritual, I mean, assuming that's the female there, she's looking like maybe she's hard to get or really not interested in this guy. The other guy is looking rather dapper and dashing, like he's about to whisper something. I don't know, the equivalent of whispering in an ear, like, hey, you want to come up and see my nest or whatever it is, But I mean, he's looking so intent. I mean, as animals, the expressions on their faces are quite different. So anything that distracts from that, I think pulls away from the image. Again, I think it's a strong image, it's a very interesting image, and those are my only suggestions there. So it's a good capture.
I agree a lot now with this branch. Imagine if this branch had the full detail all the way through. It would lead you in from the bottom right corner of the frame right into the owls. But because it's sort of muddied and muted out there, which I do think is done in post, because I don't think it's shot at a shallow enough depth of field to really mute out all of that and then just get this. That just wouldn't make sense to me. So it would be nice for that branch to lead us in to them there. Like you said, I don't mind it as much on the upper portion of it, but definitely on that part there. And so I agree very much with that. So yeah, I think is there another question for? No, they don't have any other questions on it. I know the artist is here, and so that's Arajit. So if we wanted to, if we could unmute Arajit, if he had anything that he wanted to say, or there's also this chat bubble here in the feedback AMA. If you open this up. People can chat down there, and they could ask questions if they don't want to come onto the mic. And no problem, Evan. I see you typing here. It's all leave that guy's ass out of it. Anything you didn't get to hear, Evan, it's going to be recorded. So, Jaden, were you able to get? He is unmuted. Nice. It looks like he unmuted himself. Hi.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Steve. It was done in post-processing the branch one. Now I get it actually because there were some disturbances there, so that's why I needed to blur it a bit because some cloth portion came there. So That's the reason I had to blur it in that area so that the focus goes directly to the subject.
So
Thank
you
you for the
you had something in the frame there that would have taken away from
yes.
it.
It was
Okay.
basically a plastic that was I was hiding behind a plastic thing. It was a tea shop stall actually. So from where I took the photo.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wouldn't have done it, it was much more distracting actually. So that's the reason I had to do it. But I get your point, and it is a valid one. And thank you for the feedback. Yeah, I do agree. Now, after you say it, I do agree that the background is a bit rich in color. It is looking a bit unnatural, actually. So, yeah, thank you very much for the feedback.
Yeah, I like to I like to I've listened to Sabode talk about photographing wildlife and getting it to look as true to life as possible. And there's no black and white. Some people might like things to be a little bit more fantasy, like a little less true to the life. But just listening to Sabode on some of what he said and looking at some of his images as well, I think um, he makes them look very true to life. And so if I had shot wildlife, or I plan on going with Sabo to Masamara, hopefully the next time he goes, that I would definitely take from his advice on that keeping it true. But love the image, and thanks for coming up and letting us talk about this image today. I appreciate that very much.
Hey, Arashid, I got a quick question for you here. Um, I would be real curious to see, not as a substitute for this, but I'm just curious if you were to do a really tight crop, and I don't know if you got enough resolution there for this, but where you're really getting in close to the two faces, yes, you'd lose the body and the wings up there, so it would be. Yeah, I mean, I'm even tighter than that. I'm just curious because the eyes and the face of the two are just so remarkable. I mean, that might make for an interesting photograph, and that gets rid of your all of the stuff that is become a distraction there. Um,
I
interesting.
did I did just do like a
Yeah.
somewhat of a crop. I mean, I'm not a crop master, but
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to see in your hands, as you're the creator, Arjit, what a nice tight crop would do. It might be an interesting photo.
Yeah, Steve, I actually tried it. Thanks for the suggestion, but I also tried it because it was a high ISO photo, and it was taken with a APS-C sensor camera, so the resolution is not that great. Too much noise was there, so
I see.
that's the reason I couldn't crop much more.
Just a thought.
cool. Well,
Both the faces. I wanted to do that photo with both the faces, but I was unable to do it because of the quality of the photograph, because it was taken from a bit far, and the resolution of the camera, like it is taken with a APS-C sensor, camera like D7200, and at high ISO, and because of the low light at that moment, because the sun rays are coming and the background is completely dark, so the resolution, the ISO, I had kept it very high. I think it is around 2000 ISO.
awesome. Well, thank you for all the information about the photograph. Love the photograph. I definitely see that it's definitely going to sell out over time. It's a great shot. You've already got 3 people who bought it in bear market. Um, but yeah, I don't really have anything else on it unless you have other questions, Steve. If not, we can move on to the next one.
Yep, I'm good there.
Yeah, just give me one moment here. Alrighty, I am back, and so we'll move on to this next collection, which is, let's see, sorry, I have to reopen my my Discord here. Next, actually, Magnificence of Desert, and this is by Ashen Nick Ferjan. So let's take a look here. Let's read the description. So this collection is the result of 10 years of photography of the most impassable deserts in Iran. I've been photographing in the deserts of Iran since 2012. These areas are the hottest spot on Earth, and in the summer, the heat in the shade reaches over 70 degrees Celsius. I have traveled to these deserts since 2013. I love form and light in the desert, and the desert hills are like a poem or a piece of music to me. It's beautiful. I like that. Take a look at the collection here. I mean, the first thing you notice when you look at this collection is like, okay, wow, this is a really cohesive collection of images. You know, I think curation is one of the most overlooked things in the space when creating a collection. And so when I look at this, it's like a breath of fresh air of how beautifully cohesive this is. And so, you know, he has 8 different owners. So this is doing really well. The floor price of 0.1 on this image here. Let's take a look at the cheapest image that he has in this collection. Because from here it looks page unresponsive. All right, let's wait. Let's see. From here it looks like a really beautiful image. Yeah, I have to reload Foundation. Hold on. They're asking me to. I don't want to exit the page. No. I think I'm going to have to exit the page. It's fine. And then I can just go, I can go into the Discord and make announcements, and I can reopen them. Here we go. Let's open this piece. There we go. Yeah, that's a really beautiful shot. It's minted 1 month ago. Desert face. I love that. I love landscape photography, but there's something about like close-up details of a landscape that really that I'm really intrigued by, especially when it's abstract like this, and you know the tone of it is almost has like a flesh tone or a skin tone to it. It almost looks like it could be a bodyscape of an individual. But I love the abstractness. I think that's a steal for 0.1 ETH. Let's just read a description. I don't know if we can read the description on all of these, but we'll read the description on this one. As a result of the shadows, the desert sands took the shape of a profile. I captured this photo in 2017 in the Kara Desert in Iran. This photo is a result of 10 years of photography and travel to the desert areas of Iran. Hot and impassable deserts that sometimes reach 70 degrees Celsius. I love form and light in the desert. The desert hills are like a poem or a piece of music to me. Desert photography can be a poetic art. The depth and silence within the photos undoubtedly invites the audience to ponder and reconsider the hidden corners of nature. In desert photos, you can see the dynamic dialogue between lines and curves, delicate and moving lines moving from side to side. This dialogue between the lines helps to highlight the contrast between the light and darkness of the things that are moving and the things that are still. And he has this information on what gear he's using: a Canon 6D with a 70 to 200 f4 shooting this one at the highest telephoto range of 200. Edition is 1 of 1. So a lot of information in that there. You got some tags here. I think if you use Manifold, you can add properties. I don't know if you could add properties through Foundation itself. I don't use Foundation that often, but I do love the setup of how they make the page look, especially if the artist takes advantage of that. I love this banner. I love the profile image that the artist chose here. And I mean, I could go on and talk a lot about these. It'd be very hard for me to give constructive feedback on some of these. I think most of them or all of them are really strikingly good landscapes. I'd love to hear from you, Steve, on how you feel about this as a collection.
Oh, I think it's incredibly strong and love the statement. You know, this is some of these things like number two, where it's the edge of the ocean there. I mean, that's an amazing picture in terms of the different textures and the different substrates that you're photographing. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I love your opening one, and that it looks like a human profile there. It's to me, this is almost like one of those figure ground illustrations or Rorschach tests, like with figure ground, it's you see a face and you see a vase and it goes back and forth and back and forth. This is pretty much like that. I go from seeing the face, the nose, and the chin
Which
back.
one? Which one
The
you on
first
right
one,
now?
Desert
Oh,
face.
yeah, right. The cheapest one. Right.
Yeah, it's I mean, you see the face with the nose and the chin, but then your eye goes back and you don't see it anymore. You see, I don't know, almost like a thought bubble next to it. But anyways, it's quite a visual delight, and I think the variety that you have here, it dispels certain notions about what we mean by desert, and I think that you've done a great job of curating these things here. One that's a little different, well, two. You've got two with blue skies. One is
The Ring
radio,
Ylan.
yeah, and the other one is A Miracle of Nature number one. And that it doesn't bother me. It just struck me as being unusual. The Yeah, this is really something. The I love the free Iranian woman where you've got a description there explaining about what it's like for women in Iran there. I mean, this is a very strong statement. So I like that this runs the gamut from you were out there and just photographing it, as it were, to things that involved a posed image like this woman here. The other people in the images, when you're out in the desert, I'd be curious, are there people just walking around? Were these part of a setup? It doesn't diminish in any way. I'm just curious. I think that they give a sense of scale. Crossing the desert number 4 in particular, you get a sense of the human element in there. I mean, what an immense difference in scale there. So this is all a compliment. So I am curious about the other people. Are they just walking around in general? But these are really beautiful works. I don't have anything, from a curatorial standpoint or critical standpoint to say.
Yeah, it's it's hard, and some of the collections we pick as not everything has to have a criticism or constructive feedback, but some collections are just good to look at to see when someone kind of does everything right. It's good to know when the people are doing things right, so that you can get an idea of how to curate your own collection in a way that you can take from it and lend. But I see like body parts in some of this. Like this above this top part here reminds me of a body in some way. This reminds me of like a collarbone. There's so many beautiful shapes and ways you can read these images. Look at the bottom here, how much detail is just in these little lines at the bottom here. This looks like the skin on my Sphinx cat who has no hair. Like there's so much, there's so much beauty and detail in this. I mean, I guess these photographs are probably shot at, not wide open, at like a really really strong depth of field, like f16, f8 to f22 or something. But I love the detail that goes all the way through the image. What were the questions from the artist? Let's see. I could pull it up. I'll pull it up on my phone so we don't have to look at it. I've been recording. It just says I've been recording these photos for several years, and it says, "What is the goal?" So I don't know that those are questions for us exactly, but I mean, I could tell that you've been recording these photos for several years. I mean, no one really puts together like this strong of a cohesive body of work unless they've spent quite some time on it, right? No one goes out on a day's photo shoot and comes back with this. It's just not realistic. What is the goal? I mean, I think that's a question for yourself, right? I'm not sure if you are asking questions to us or not. I think you're kind of hitting the goal here, which is having a cohesive body of work that speaks to solitude and the lines and shapes of the desert. And so I think you're hitting that. You have 8 collected out of 14, so that's more than half. I think that's it's a nice achievement in a bear market, especially. That said, I don't really have anything else on this. This is most of these, just really. I love this one. Like, geez, this miracle of nature too. It's so minimal, so simplistic, and just like something I'd want to hang in a square frame in my home. It's colors.
It's also very painterly, if I may say. I mean, that one really stands out. And by the way, I photographed in Death Valley, never where these were taken, and it is really hard to catch shadows and intense light without blowing out the highlights. So kudos to you. You've done a wonderful job and really made great use of the shadows. So
Yeah, kudos on that. It's great. Cool. Really, really beautiful job, Ashan. And love this collection. This is something I think that'll definitely sell out. I'd be very surprised if somebody doesn't pick this one up for 0.1. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece in the collection. I like it more than some of the ones that are priced a little higher even. With that being said, we move on to the next collection. Unless the artist is here and wants to chime in. Let's take a look. The artist is not here, so it's recorded, so it's perfectly fine. So, next collection is The Adventures of Amanda, and this is by Mauricio Thompson. He's got a lot of questions here. So, you know what? Before I look at the question, I'm going to read these questions. So, about scarcity and why a collection of 55 pieces finds the strength of the collection being the repetition of the visuals and its concept, so it needs a large quantity. Is it okay the way it is? Should I balance it more? That's a question. Let's keep that in mind. All right, about pricing. I know it's such a personal thing, but being a 6-year project with such a long dedication, just for the sake of art, I thought that the 0.1 ETH decision was okay. I think 0.1 is definitely, definitely okay. Although having only one sale, below the floor with some negotiation, so he went below his floor to get that sale. Maybe has more sales now. Yeah, there's 2 sales. I'm rethinking my pricing decision. What to go below 0.1 ETH on a one-of-one? I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't. I'm rethinking my pricing. It's because it's my genesis, or maybe he wants to go higher. It's because it's my genesis. It is just a matter of time, and keep on marketing it until I find the right collector. Or should I really lower the price? Maybe. I don't think you should lower the price. Knowing that it would take a long time to hypothetically sell out 55 items in the collection, if ever, should I restrain myself on creating another one on another platform just for the sake of experimenting and showing other side of my portfolio? Should I wait a little longer and at least sell some more Genesis pieces? This last paragraph question, I think, is the most important question. Restraining yourself on creating other work on another platform just for the sake of experimenting, showing other side of work. Should I wait a little? Well, let's look at the collection. Let me read the artist statement of the collection. It's, well, it said 55 items in here, but this says there's 33 items in the collection. So he must have culled down on some of the images. So this is a story of a girl that's camera shy. So it became an obsessive 6-year project with more than 300 shots without her face on them, exploring in beautiful sceneries and experiences around the world. Now she's wandering in the metaverse on this collection with carefully curated items looking for her home. Let's go on an adventure. One of ones with lots of rare traits, rarity, props, friends, adventure level, location. All items come with a physical print shipped to the collector. Holders are eligible to unlock exclusive loyalty airdrops and early access to future releases. The Adventures of Amanda project was featured in exhibitions, talks, magazines, newspapers, and in a TV show in Brazil, along with many international blogs and showcases on Instagram through the Adventures of Amanda hashtag, awarded in the art by Chance Ultra Short Film Festival. Okay, cool. So I like the banner. Let me see if the banner gets bigger as I. Yep, it has a nice look to it. A bunch of different. I always like gridded banners. They're really cool. Gives you an idea of what the collection's going to be like. I do enjoy the artist statement. I think the artist statement is pretty well done. All items come with. So I'm trying to think of that hierarchy that Steve was talking about. I think this hierarchy is done pretty well. It's got the story. Then it talks about the rarities and stuff. Then physical print, and then like the awards and stuff. And I think that's the way that it should go. So that looks pretty good to me. So 94% of them are listed, which means some of them aren't actually listed. Maybe those are the ones that are bought and they just aren't being resold. The floor price is 0.1. I think across the board it is 0.1. They are. Okay. So my initial look into the collection, I think I might have looked at this collection in the past when it was like 55, and I think that the artist called down. The artist is here, I believe. Mauricio, if you're unmuted and you want to unmute, you want to talk.
I'm here.
Hey, what's up? So did you call down from 55 to 33?
Yeah, I've talked with some friends, and they suggested me to maybe burn some and create it a little bit more. So now
I talked about that too. I think I might have had you in an AMA in the past, a long time ago.
Exactly.
And I think looking at it now, it's a lot cleaner than it was, right? So when I look at these, there's a few of them that, like, without even opening them up, like, stand out to me. Like, this Adventures in Big Sur, this Misty shot here, the one in Death Valley here, this one in the center of the road, So I think the ones that feel like where you could see the subject more, and she doesn't get lost as much in the environments, like Adventures in Chessman Park. Like just looking at it here, they're all black and such. It looks like a little bit more lost in the environment. If I look at Adventures to the Geysers, let's open up that one. Sorry about OpenSea having this slow. This is interesting, but she sort of gets lost in this one. I think maybe for some of the ones where the environment's dark, that maybe she's wearing something lighter. The image quality on this one looks like a little bit less than some of the other ones. Like if I go back and I go to, for instance, this one. It just seems like the image quality is a lot stronger on this than it was in the other shot. And I don't know if that's because it's with different gear. I mean, if you told me that this was taken on like a Hasselblad medium format, I could believe that, right? The other one feels a bit more like a phone that just wasn't holding up as well in that situation. So I really love this one. Looking at properties, so you have different things, adventure level, chill. So you have a little some utility. This what country it was, the color of it, which adds some utility. It'd be nice to see the edition inside the properties. It'd be nice to see the artist's name inside the properties. I think that's important. I think you can still do a lot of that because they're not sold, right, for the most part. Another one where let's see. Try to point out this one looks beautiful just from looking. This one looks, yeah, and that's an interesting composition actually too, as to where you cut it off. Like you would think that cutting it off there would be hurt the composition, but I actually think it's a daring composition, and I actually really enjoy this one. I love the fog and the trees on this. There was a couple of other ones where I felt like she got lost, like this one here. Okay. And I was just looking at the smaller image, but let's open it up. And I'm speaking technically on a lot of this stuff. So, like for me here, like she just gets lost in the mountain, and are you, Steve? I'd love to hear from you too. Like, does it feel that way in some of these? Like, does she feel like she's just getting lost in the environment a bit too much in this one, and there's not enough separation between her and the environment? Or maybe if it was taken lower or from a different perspective, that it wouldn't feel that way?
I think it's a few things. That one that you're talking about in Zion, by the way. Yeah, I know a lot of these places, so it's really fun to look at these, particularly the one in DV. I have actually walked along that road. The Zion one, I think the issue is that her hat is kind of brownish, and you've got the reddish rock face, and you really can't distinguish her head all that well. It's kind of lost in there. I think I would agree with you where the body stands out, that these things work very, very well. And I do like that one with the foggy trees, the foggy woods in Cerro Branco, Brazil. It's a really interesting crop. And I think I'd have to agree with you that these things work the best when there is good definition of the subject. And yes, I can't really add anything to that. I have to agree with you, Mike.
I mean, I'm a pretty strict curator. So like, I know you called these down from 55, but like, I could still call these down if it was like up to me. If like someone gave me like uh, full freedom to call down, like I'd call out this guy Geyser's piece. I'd call out maybe this piece where she feels a little bit lost in it. It's cute though with the squirrel though. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe this one stays. There's a few. Let's take a look through some of these. This is one that's that works, right, really well. It's got a nostalgic film feel to it. It has grain that feels genuine and nostalgic. The reflection is really beautiful. I think the editing is done really well on here. It's got this feeling of nostalgia and solitude. That's one I would certainly keep. I think that's a great one to have. So, I think less is more, especially in a market where it's just hard to sell. It's interesting, yes, yeah. So there's some aspects that I guess determine rarity. 12% are rare. This one says it has a rare aspect to it. This is really interesting too. This looks like it's it's in a museum. That's probably an art piece from a famous artist about the pile up of either trash or just consumption. And I think this one really works within this, although it's quite different because most of them are not inside of. Most of them are outside, right? Most of them are taking place outside. It's like one of the only ones that's taking place inside. Now, I don't know if that takes away from the cohesion or not. I think that's subjective. But a lot of these other ones do really work well. Look at this one. And this is what's great about the fact that you culled down from 55 to 33, because when I was 55, it was a lot harder for me to find the gems because I would get lost in the saturation of these. This one's having a hard time opening up, but it's fine because I think we could see it still really well here. And once again, I love the blues in this. It has a film feel to it. You're missing, you definitely want to be, if you're going to have properties on some and a description on some, then why not have it on all? So I would definitely do that. I mean, if it's still for sale, you could still make the changes. So I would get strict on some of that. I'm going to resort back to the questions just because they were very elaborate, and see if there's something that we can touch on or something, if anything that we missed. Let's see. Scarcity and why a collection of 55 pieces, strength of the collection being a repetition. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to have a lot of images and tons of images to have repetition. Also, something to be said about having less until you create more that are of a quality that stand with the original ones. There's nothing wrong with adding images over time, and adding images as the quality comes up. Like I have hundreds of images from the ferry for my Lost in Transit series, but like I only add the next 20 when I feel that they are at the same par, at the same level with the last 20 that I added. And I think that's something that has to do with patience, but also, persistence in going out and saying, I'm going to keep shooting until the quality's up to the level where I add. Pricing, I would keep at 0.1. I don't know why you would go down from there. I don't think that going down in pricing when you're already at a low price like this equals sales. I just don't think it works that way. I think in general, a great curation combined with the collector having an emotional attachment to a piece has a lot more to do with the sale than the price does. Unless the price is obnoxious, which it's not at all. Knowing that it would take a long time to hypothetically sell out at 55, let's just call it 33 at this point because it's hard to sell at 33 also. Should I restrain myself on creating another one on another platform just for the sake of experimenting and showing other side of my portfolio? That's a hard one, right? Because maybe you have other work that's more compelling to a larger audience than this work, but at the same time, if you're not, if this work isn't in the eyes of enough people and you're not talking about the work and why you love creating the work on your Twitter or have this one specifically as your pinned tweet or etc., then why add more work when you can continue to tell this story until it hits? That being said, drop it over to Steve on anything that I said or anything that you agree with or disagree with. Let's answer some of those questions.
So, no, I'm agreeing with everything you said. I have two other thoughts on here. As you curate, one of the things that I find, it's a little bit jarring is the relative size of Amanda, and some of them they're pretty close, and some of them she's much, much smaller. And obviously, there are different settings and all that. But the extreme difference, I think, going from one to one to one to another is a little bit jarring in places. Easily fixed in terms of your curation. The other thing is, I would like to know more of the backstory here. Why these places and what ties the places together? Was this just kind of roaming around and vagabonding, and that's fine too? But how'd you get there? I mean, from 1 to 2 to 3, etc. What was the plan? And a little more, who is Amanda? We know that she's camera shy, but did she want to be, photographed, not showing her face? Did she? I mean, what's the rationale? There's a little too much here that we don't know, and I think if we knew more about why you're doing this, how you pick these destinations, then I think this would tie together better.
Yep, I think that's really well said. I didn't really think about I think subconsciously I thought about the distance in the images, but I didn't bring that into since they're talking about it like you did. I think that's a good point that like in this one, for instance, it doesn't feel as much about her as it does about this rock structure, right? But there's other images where it feels a lot more about Amanda. Even this one, when she's really far away, I think he still did a really good job of. I'm gonna wait for this to load, but a really good job of making it about her. What helps is the red hat. I think the wardrobe in a lot of these is what's holding some of them back. The red hat works really well. As you contrasted red on blue, my eye goes right to her red hat. Not only that, the leading line brings me to her. Take that image, right? Then you look at a different image where she feels lost in it. Let's just take this one, for instance. I love the landscape and everything like that. I think this is a great shot and whatnot. But, had she maybe been wearing a yellow shirt or, a different color shirt that wasn't the same tone as the landscape, maybe if it was taken lower, so that he didn't become part of the whole landscape and there was some space for her to be with the sky instead. I'm not sure how that would work or play out. I wasn't there in this situation, but to me she gets a little lost in the landscape here, so I think that that's important to think about that. That's interesting. This works for me. But yeah, I mean, that if the artist is, Mauricio, if you have anything you want to add, or if you learned anything from this, or if you agree or disagree, would love to hear from you about some of that and what your plans are.
I just need to thank you guys really, really, really. So thank you, Steve, Mike, and Bossman, and everyone. I can't say enough how I think MetaJungle is the most valuable thing in the space since my beginning in this world in January this year. And I really think everything you guys do is so much valuable to the community. So I just needed to thank you guys.
You're definitely the type of individual that I like to speak on a collection and give constructive feedback, because you're the type of person that puts your ego aside and says, how can I use this to learn? And you've done that. You've culled down from your last set of images. And so I really appreciate what you say about what, MetaJungle has done. We've, been educating since I first entered the space and started to work and help with MetaJungle. That was our goal, was to help photographers and artists, whether they're at a pro level, mid-level, amateur level, whatever it might be, to become the next greatest version of themselves as an artist and to find their voice. So we really appreciate those comments because it's very encouraging for us to want to continue and help to get that recognition. Is really, really nice. So thank you so much. I don't know if you had anything to add, Steve.
Okay, having a little difficulty unmuting. No, I think you summed it up very well, and I also appreciate your willingness to take constructive criticism, and that's huge, because it's hard. You put a lot of time into it, and you mint it, and you're kind of going forward there, and then it's it takes a lot of guts, and also you got to check your ego at the door. And so I think that you're to be commended there. And at the risk of sounding too harsh, I think that there's a kernel of some really good stuff here. Some really good photos. And I think the concept is, I think you're underselling the concept. That's what I wanted to say. That you can change. It's still not too late to change the description. But think about what I call the 3 to 5 second rule. And that applies to whether you're looking at a piece of art on the web. You might be buying an NFT. Whether you're buying a book from an author, when you come, and that's something I know a lot about, that's my business during the day, is that you got such a short time to make that emotional connection, and the cognitive connection as well. The emotional connection is done visually in terms of, does this resonate with me? Is it beautiful? Is there a lot of tension here? Is it making me ask questions? All of these things, okay? But there's also a cognitive element there, and that is, if you make me ask questions like, what is going on, or why, and how do I get around some of the holes here, then you're going to slow things up, and I'm going to be less inclined to want to dig deeper into it and to try to figure out for myself what's going on with the images here. So you're partly there, and without writing War and Peace or the Gettysburg Address, I think a little more context here will help the viewer and potential collector understand how this all fits together, and I think that will help you a lot.
Thanks for adding that, Steve. I want to make sure, Steve, that that you're okay with time, just because we're only through 4 out of 8 of the collections so far, and so, or you think you'll be able to stay? Because if not, I can continue on my own. I just want to be cognizant of your time.
Let's just keep on going. I think
excellent.
That's terrific.
Cool. So next collection is not collection. The next edition is the Crown of Fire, and this is by Bipra. Most of us know Bipra in the community. He's very supportive, and he's here very often. Crown of Fire, and makes sense to Bipra right now because he's on fire, because He's been selling and getting auctions on his work, and his work hasn't sold in a long time, but just had this flurry of success in this past few days from like really respected collectors in the space. And so kudos to Beeper for that. I'm gonna read the description here. I haven't read this yet, and it looks like there's a lot of tongue twisting names here. So I'll do my best. The Crown of Fire. This is a photograph of an ancient tradition in Bengal, Duopura, burning frankincense. Dunopura is a tradition that is followed during the Durga Puja in West Bengal. The vowed woman sits in front of the idol, legs folded and hands rested on the knees. Then she is draped with pieces of dripping wet cotton cloth from head to toe. Three malshas, earthen pots, are placed, one each on the head, and the two hands atop lumps of wet mud. The malshas have a fire burning with the help of jute sticks and solid duvno, frankincense. This ritual is done mostly by the married women of the household in hopes of good health and prosperity of her family. She sits there with raging fire on her hands and over her head without a speck of fear in her eyes. I can only imagine the heat from all the fire that she was experiencing, as even I was drenched in sweat standing at a distance from the actual ritual. But never in those 10 to 15 minutes did I see any expression of uneasiness on her face. Guess that's what queens do, and this one has decorated herself with the crown of fire. Amazing description. I mean, like, it feels like you really brought me there with this description. And I could feel the heat. I love that you wrote what this was about. You made her to really feel strong and majestic. It's just something that I didn't know about. I think I did a good job at pronouncing some of this stuff for the first time. Really, really, really well done. Talks about the device, dimension, title, license, about the artist. Edition. Would love your artist name in here. Definitely, this is definitely a trend that either people are missing the edition or they're missing the artist name. You got some of these sold. You got 2 of them sold already. So maybe on your next edition, you have that information to add that in there on the properties. The price is really, really right. The image is beautiful. I think you nailed it. It looks like her hair is fire. And it's how it comes up the side of her jawline and face. Wild shot. Two collectors so far. And let me see if Beeper had any questions here. How's the photo? I really enjoy the photo. I love warm and cold together, like blues and oranges. I think that looks really well together. I love her calm uneasiness that you could see in the photo here. The flames, the shutter speed used, everything seems really, really intentional and well done to me. Is it a limited edition? Do you prefer OpenSea over Manifold? Is it limited? How many are there? There's 10. Yeah, that's pretty limited to me. I like 10. 10's like my magic number editions. Do you prefer OpenSea over Manifold? I prefer Manifold just because I think we're going to be multi-platform in the future. I think we're multi-platform now, and so we've had issues with royalties on platforms and issues with artists from certain countries on platforms, and some platforms enforce this more than others. And I like that I have my legacy collection on Manifold because it shows up on Rarible, and it shows up on Foundation, and it shows up on Maker's Place and these other platforms. And so I feel safe knowing that it's like my contract, not like a lazy minted contract. I love the ability to do the editing in Manifold, and I find that there's just nice tools to use. So yeah, that's my choice is Manifold. Steve, would love to hear from you.
Yeah. I think this is an incredible image. Photographing fire is really hard anytime, but these are extraordinary because you not only had to photograph the fire, but you had a subject behind the fire. And I think you've done a brilliant job of that. I think the explanation is fantastic. It's everything that I'd want to know. So I can't really criticize this. I think that you've done a great job, and it's almost a piece of photojournalism or cultural documentary, as well as having a fine art element. So kudos to you, and I hope that you sell more. Very, very impressive.
I don't have anything else to say. I think so too. Very impressive. This is more of a showcase than anything else showcasing the work. Really, really good job. The only thing is to name the properties next time. This will sell out. Actually, it's one of your thoughts. Yeah, I think posting this photo on your Twitter and telling the story about it on Twitter is a good idea to get some eyes on it and always put the link to the collection there. And, yeah, great job. Love seeing Beeper on fire this past week. He's been patient. He hasn't given up. I think that's the most important thing, and he's been persistent in creating artwork. That being said, love to go on to the next collection here, which is Yoga. And Yoga is by Tolga Ulatox. Let's check out Yoga. So I'll read the questions first. Are the photos in the collection compatible with each other? So that's basically asking if it's cohesive. What are your opinions on the tones? I think you'd be pretty happy with both of the answers to this. Okay, first off, if I can be critical right off the bat, the banner is not it for me. The photographs are just a lot better than the banner. Like, imagine if the banner was like, the top portion of this image with a little reflection. I mean, I think that would really pull us in more. I think, and Foundation provides like a page that is almost like a website. It gives you like a lot. You can really make something nice of it. You don't have any photo over Yoga. Like, you don't have any like opening photo, and your banner needs help. So like, some of these things might sound like little things, but when the little things add up, like when the little things add up to be big things, and things can feel really clean and finished. And this is not helping when you don't have that. Outside of that, there's another thing you don't have: a description. You just have activity and NFTs. So description in this case is artist statement. So okay, Yoga, right? Beautiful poses. I know how I feel about yoga. Yoga to me is a way of becoming present in the moment, because yoga is very demanding. So something that's demanding with the body doesn't allow you to really focus on your anxieties about the day or the past or the future. It forces you to be in the present. It's beautiful for a physique. It has stretching is an amazing thing. So like, that's how I feel about yoga. How do you feel about it? That's an artist statement, right? Think about why you chose yoga and what it means to you, and put that into words. And if you need help with that, you can message me or someone else who you admire, who writes maybe good artist statements. I'm good. I don't think I'm the best. There's some poets in this community that are really, really good, but I think you're missing an artist statement that could help. So artist statement, original photo, like the opening photo, a better banner. Now let's go on to the images, which I'm really impressed with actually. So energy, like, okay, so you talked about how are these are very cohesive, obviously. They're very cohesive. One thing that makes things cohesive, obviously, is black and white monotone when done correctly. And you have strong tonality throughout the image. You have dark darks all the way through the lightest lights. I think you've nailed that. I think this composition is brilliant. I love this composition. I wish you could just go to the next photo. Come on, like these websites, like 2022, it's almost 2023. Like, why can't I just click the arrow like on Sloika and go to the next photograph? Like, please, Foundation, work on that. Another really brilliant image. I mean, just like compositionally dramatic skies, great tonality. I love all of these. You want to talk about? I'll let Steve talk about the next two images. Let's open nature of yoga and maybe how you feel about this collection and these images, Steve.
Sure. I think that you're spot on. Let's start with the banner. Foundation banners are tricky because of the way that they scale for different size monitors. So I'm just playing with this thing now on Foundation in a separate browser window. And now, granted, most people don't have their browsers open to a full 27 inches. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're going to do something smaller. At 27 inches, by the way, all you have are some dark clouds and these three pillars, which could well be, you don't know what they are. As you get smaller and smaller, you really have to get down to almost a tablet size before you see the person in the yoga pose. And in fact, this is about yoga. So if I were you, I would experiment with the banners. You don't have to make it one image too. It might be that a collage of these works so that there's maybe all 4 yoga positions are out here. And that way, no matter where you go, okay, the overlays with the collection metadata, as well as the buttons on the right, something's going to get obscured, but you're always going to have at least one person in a yoga pose. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I think that given the fact that this is about yoga, that banner really needs to do what? It needs to show yoga. Totally agree on the some kind of a description here. And, it doesn't have to be War and Peace length either, but just something why. Why'd you shoot it? What does yoga mean to you? I don't know. Are you a practitioner? Are people close to you practitioners? Have you always admired it or something about that? In terms of these last 2 images here, I like them a lot. I like the framing. Hang on a second here. Mike, are you going to show the last 2? Or are we looking at the last 2 here?
I'm looking at the second to last. If you can see it on my screen.
Yeah, hang on a second here. I'm actually looking at, okay, so I see this one where it's a single, oh, no, okay, no, it's, yes. Hang on a second here. I like this a lot, and I think that you've done a really good job of the silhouetting here. We've got the lighting just right here. And I like the fact that it's, not centered. Now, your next one is centered more or less because of the, it's not even centered there, which is good because I think that all these being slightly off center is great. And I'm someone who basically does not like centered things unless there's a really good reason for it, like there's some bilateral symmetry in a building or something in nature. So I think these are both very strong. My favorite is mirror, in that the environment, okay, plays a big role in this thing. And I love the way how in that one, in fact, yeah, I think this is your strongest one, frankly, because if you look at how the foreground just kind of pulls you in, and it's almost like it picks up speed until you hit the silhouetted person, and then you're out the framing and you're out to out to the horizon there. So I think this is a fabulous image. So I like this one the best, hands down. So they're all strong, but I think this one is super strong.
Yeah, I think it's the hero image too. That's my favorite one. Like you said,
I wonder.
Oh,
Sorry, could you do something cropping wise with the banner so that, and again, you'd have to experiment, but maybe if you crop it, and Foundation's got really, they all have goofy dimensions that require weird crops. But if you think about it, what's the most important thing? It's the person in the pose and her reflection here. So if you were to crop a little bit above her top hand and a little bit below, try that one and see if it works. It's centered enough that you're going to avoid the problems of it being overlaid by the metadata text blocks there. So just a thought.
yeah, completely agree on that. I think having that clean banner does a lot. I mean, obviously that one's sold already too. Mira is sold. So people. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Not surprised.
Not surprised.
Not surprised. Yeah, and I think these other three could sell too, even if you don't fix your banner or add an image here. But I just think why not make it the best as possible? Why not make it look the best as possible? I think it just helps, and I definitely think adding in like a little artist statement about why yoga. But like, let me open up one of these because like they have descriptions. Like yoga means addition of energy, strength, and beauty to body, mind, and soul. That's not enough for me. I'll be fair to say, like, that to me just feels like um, you could look up like a definition of what yoga is and copy paste and drop it in. Like, I want to hear more from like you and what yoga means to you, right? Rather than this broader sense of what it's supposed to be about. Let me see if you have any other. Yoga is fountain of youth. You're only as young as your spine is flexible. I mean, these are good, but I think they could. I think they could be a lot better. They don't feel. They don't. I don't feel as connected to you about it as I think that I'd like to feel. And I think that you do that in an artist statement as well. That being said, I mean, look, did we cover the questions from the artist? Yeah, we covered the questions. The photos and collection compatible, yes. Well, your opinions on the tones. I think tones are great. I think tones are very important. I think the tonality throughout are really well done in these. It doesn't feel like over processed, and it doesn't. I really like the tones. Do you have anything else on this before we would move on to the next collection, Steve?
No, I think that some beautiful work here, and I'd be curious. Do you practice yoga? Had you practiced in the past? I mean, again, why did you choose it? If it's something that you do, as you could say, as a practitioner of yoga, blah blah blah, whatever. Just get you. It needs some you in there, and that answers the question why. And then this becomes a personal project for you rather than something that okay, yoga's cool. I'll go take pictures of people doing yoga. I mean, just give us a little bit. It wouldn't take a whole lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. That being said, I'm going to jump over to the next collection, which is the Veil of Eminence, and this is by Hegden. Hegden is from India, and he's been in the space for quite a long time, since as far as I can think back. So, like you said, if you so I'm looking at this, and if you look up top here, it says I'm at 400% now, Steve. What am I supposed to be at for OpenSea? I'm supposed to be at 100%, right? Which is this. Do you know what I'm talking about when you zoom in with the plus and minus? If I could zoom into a certain amount, I can get his full banner almost, but that's at 150%. But what are most people's default at? Probably 100. If it's at 100, then I would say that the banner can use some help in the fact that I'd love to see all 6 images or just 3 of them. I'll on to read the artist statement. You got your royalties set. That's good. A Veil of Eminence is a collection of 9 one-of-one photographs of Ki Monastery, which is a Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Himachal Pradesh, India, captured over the span of 7 years, from 2016 to 2022 by Aaron Hegden. I have tried to showcase the monastery in different angles, different seasons, different lighting conditions, using different sky elements. As a photographer, I believe that every shot must be confiscated with immense, is it the word? Confiscated with immense love and passion. While creating these pictures, I try to envision a sense of tranquility and euphony in the surrounding ambiance, which made me feel ease and content. Roadmap. As a full-time photographer and educator, I conduct yearly astrophotography workshops to Spiti. I don't know what that means exactly. 2 seats will be sponsored from the funds received, and 20% will be used to collect from fellow communities. So you can go to your collector. You have the chance of getting to go to an astrophotography workshop, which sounds really cool. As Hegden is a really, really good astrophotographer. So now let's take a look at the question. He definitely asked a question here. Is it better to keep this as a collection itself, or take away unsold pieces and mint it on my own smart contract? There's not much traction after so long. So I guess what he's asking is, there's only been 2 sales, so should some of these images maybe be removed and listed possibly as additions on Manifold or something to that extent? I don't know. Let's take a look at the images. So from what I understand from the artist statement is that this is the same monastery taken at different times of the year, different lighting situations, right? And so I wonder, when looking at this, if I'd like for him to be in the same exact position and taking the same exact shot with this tripod in the same place to see the changes. Like for instance, in the second 2 here, this looks almost like it's the same exact spot, and and seeing the changes is interesting. So price is 0.2, but there's some here that are 0.3, and I guess that so original sold at 0.15. So I'm wondering if Hegden just he bases this price off of maybe it's harder to get that photograph. I think the one that stands out most to me is like one of these unsold ones. This is like Blue Hour Key, and I just and the reason why is because the subject is just right. It's so clearly highlighted by these nighttime yellow lights, and you can just see these different rooms on the mountain that just go up. It's really beautiful. You got these star flares happening, and I love the warm on the blue of the river into the sky, and then just this crescent moon. I mean, it definitely feels like this is not taken with one exposure, but probably 2 different separate exposures, maybe one of the sky and moon and one of, but I'm unsure. Let's read this. This is my 5th visit to Key Monastery. We hiked up till the viewpoint to create some sunset shots. The sunset was very normal. There wasn't much drama in the clouds. We were about to leave as it started getting windy, but Srivatsa, a group member, suggested us to meditate for a few minutes. The cold wind was blowing, light was pleasant, stars rising behind us, Dreamcatcher song playing on my phone, and Moon Crescent waving us goodbye for the day, and the key monastery glowing in the lights. The blue hour had begun, and it stuck. It stuck me an idea to create a shot of Key Monastery Blue Hour with Moon Crescent, which was never seen before. We used our camera bags as makeshift tripods to create long exposures of the monastery on wide-angle lens, and used a telephoto to shoot the moon separately. Okay, so it's 2 exposures. This was merged in post-production to create the final output. This shot has been viral and been shared by many social media pages. And this gave me the much-needed break from creative block. Key Monastery from vantage point behind in spring at blue hour after sunset. I love that. I love reading into like what went into this. Like maybe they were ready to give up and leave the scene because the sunset wasn't so good. Tell me about it. There's so many where you go out and they're just not good. You really have to have those low clouds and that the sun comes from underneath and really lights the sky. But his friend told him that they should meditate and hang for a while, and I'm happy that you did, because this image is just so beautiful. So this is my favorite, and it's still not collected. 0.3 ETH. Cool. Looking at it, I like this tab where you can look at them bigger like this, and I think they're all pretty beautiful. I think the weakest image in here for me is definitely this snow one here. So like if I was to call this down, like you said, I'd probably pull this one. I think this snow image here just has more to it. Like, this is beautiful. You can really see all the detail in this here. And I love how there's not snow on it, but there's snow on like everything else. And this just really stands out. And you have this beautiful foreground of just these little branches. This is a gorgeous shot. Now, if I take that and I open up this shot, it just seems like you're just a better landscape photographer than this shot, in my opinion. There's like, the subject is so far away. There's a lot of negative space that doesn't make sense to me. There's no real lead into the subject. This one for me is the weakest of the bunch. And so, I mean, you place that one at 0.2, maybe you consider it to be like less than the rest, but for the most part, I mean, I really do like a lot of the other images in here. You think they are beautiful. This light that's happening here is gorgeous. And I like how you added this one in here with the Milky Way. Steve, what are your thoughts? I'm not rubbed.
There
Am
we
I
go.
got? Oh, Steve's
Yeah,
muted. Okay.
I got so many windows open that the unmute was down underneath the dock. Anyways, agree with pretty much what you're talking about here. I think that it's tough to look at something like this that if you had done this, well, you didn't. It's past tense. And but I guess for thinking about the future, if in fact the location could have been locked in and you somehow marked it and actually used the tripod so you had the exact same photo with the exact same lens, and if the zoom, the exact same focal length, that would be nice. I think that the one with the moon is great. I do like I like the lights on in the monastery very much. I think for the moon itself, I'm looking at it more closely here. I think that, I don't know whether you mask the moon or how you did that. feathering the edges of the moon would have made it blend in a tad better. I mean, it's
It feels a little superimposed in a way, right? I mean, I'm not too familiar with much of Photoshop because I don't use it that much because I do a lot of more of street and documentary style work, but it does feel like yeah, it could have been like shaded in a way that, I don't know if that's the right word. The word you just used is the correct word, in a way where it felt a little more natural, right?
right. Just feather the edges a little bit. They're a bit sharp there. But I do like the lights on the monastery, and I think compositionally it all works very nicely here. In terms of let me go back up. I'm actually looking at a separate window here. And the Milky Way one, I like that. Yeah, I really like that one. That an amazing night sky there. And I like again, the lighting on the monastery itself. So in terms of your statement, go back up there for a second here. There we go. So this is a pet peeve of mine, and that is, I like to avoid soft words like I have tried to showcase. I just come on and say it. I've showcased. Showcase is one word there.
Agree.
And yeah, I call these weasel words. They're weak and they don't help you. I think, I believe, I want. I tried. No, you didn't. And here they are. Don't undersell yourself. I'm not sure if confiscated is the word that you meant here. I'm not sure what exactly you meant, but I have a feeling it's not confiscated. But as a concept, I think that this holds together very well. The idea of taking a place that's important culturally or to you, and to show it in different, seasonal context here. I mean, I think that one thing, if you go back to the statement there.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, it's the question of why. Okay, why are you doing this? And I think it's in that second paragraph here, and maybe it's just end of the day, and well, actually, it's not. It's the middle of the day. I'm not caffeinated enough. It's not hitting me as to what is the point to come back year after year. Is it the constancy of what the monastery stands for? What that the spiritual message is the same no matter what? I think just that little statement like that would make this more meaningful, rather than here's a monastery in a bunch of different seasons. Tell us why that's important. And that's something you can fix right now, or not fix, but change. Correct, Mike?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to be a little critical here, he talked about should he lose some of these and possibly place elsewhere since it's been slow. I'm gonna just look at that. If I just look at the top row, I would pick between the two snow images. I think the one on the left is much stronger. I would lose this one. And I would pick between these two images because they're very similar. Now, if if every shot was taken from the same exact point and it showed like this kind of flip book change of season, then I wouldn't have that. But I think maybe the one with the sunset sky is a bit stronger than this one. I mean, I think there's a few here where you could say, think, okay, these are similar. Maybe I can lose one, but everything else I think kind of stands on its own. This is unique because it has the Milky Way. This is unique because it has this like sunset with a storm coming in, sort of. This is unique because it has the monastery lights and the blue and the cold and warm tones. This one's unique because of that shadow of light that comes through. But how is this one unique when we have this one? How is this one unique when we have this one? Those would be, I could call two of these out of 9 and have 7. and that's just an idea. It's just my own idea. There's a couple of them. Now, Hegden's here. I'd love to hear from Hegden.
Can I just say one thing first?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
This would be a little bit drastic, and it might be something that doesn't appeal at all. But generally, okay, if someone's going to say taken in different seasons, okay, most of us think about 4. And I think this would maybe it's a different presentation altogether, but simply have the 4 seasons and the best of each one there. And then I think that would eliminate some of the issues that Mike's talking about here, but it also, I think, would make this stronger. Here it is in, say, winter, spring, summer, and autumn. And then, we think in terms of seasons being 4. Maybe that's a cultural thing, and maybe that's just in my head, but it would give it a rationale. You're saying seasons, here are the 4 seasons. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's a good thought. And, if we have Hegden unmuted, I would love to hear what he got from this and what his plans might be, and if he's going to change anything or agrees or disagrees with anything we've said. I'd love to hear from you. If you're unmuted, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Good to be back here after a long time.
Yeah, love you, brother. Miss you, and nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, I just finished my shoot and getting back home. It's 2 a.m. here. Yeah, but it's good to hear the comment, and I think I'm attending an AMS session after a long time. Yeah, I totally heard the points which you guys really made, which was really, really informative. Because this was already taken up by Sarah Lindsay and Nakul Sharma, I think maybe a few months back on IMA session. They gave some valid points which I updated, and I reprocessed one picture and I removed one picture and replaced one picture. Yeah, I think whatever points you said makes really sense to me. Those 2 pictures I think are the weakest. Maybe that one without anything, just a negative space, and the one with the foreground of the plant. Maybe I feel okay. They are little not going with the whole set. Probably I would don't want to be them on the chain, and I think I would want to remove it so as to just to keep my best of my best work on the NFT space. Yeah, and also you guys said about why I created this, because of this is a place which not everybody can reach easily. You need like a little physical strength and stamina to be here, and it takes maybe around easily around 48 hours on road travel to reach, and there's hardly any tarmac here, so to reach this village. And then you have to climb up for like almost 20-25 minutes, which will leave you breathless. So it's a daunting task to get here and reach here and create something. And my idea was not to showcase seasons, but the different ways the same place can be presented in different lighting conditions. To be showcased as a challenge for a photographer. Like, I'm a photographer, I shoot the same place, but even if I'm here for a different time, I think I can create something new. So that's the kind of challenge I wanted to throw myself into. Yeah. So every time I shoot, sometimes I end up with nothing. And probably then this was the time, like I said, the blue shot. We ended up with a very blunt sunset without anything, and eventually we just stayed there and something magical happened. Yeah. So that was the idea about the whole this thing. And this time where the yellow that stormy sunset happened, after the storm passed by, there was nothing. Like, it was just very blunt, and the sun after the sunset there was nothing. There was no clouds, there was no moon, there was nothing blue skies or anything. Yeah. So me as a photographer, I just wanted to showcase the idea of like creating something new from a very it's a lot of photographs. It's a very famous place, but yeah, you can create something different every time, or the more you try, you can get something new out of it. That's what I wanted to show. Probably, I think I have to write the artist statement a little more impactful because uh, I went with someone who helped me out to write this, but eventually, I don't think that has really translated that why is it important. I think that why part is really missing here, like you said. So probably I have to rework around it and think of how I can present this better.
Cool. Nice to hear from you, from you, Hegden. And yeah, I'm glad you guys stayed after that week sunset to get this shot because it's really incredible. I think it's the best one in the collection, and it's cool that it's still available. And so yeah, and also really commend you for putting your work on display and taking feedback and saying, agreeing with some of the ones that you think are the weaker images that you could pull out, so that you can only be just be displaying your best work, so that people don't get lost in looking through the work and trying to find the most impactful ones. Because there's ones that distract that aren't as good. I think it's better to have less. I think less is more in a situation like this. And so, yeah, wonderful to hear from you, and hope you're doing really well. Thanks for coming up, man.
Thank you, Mike. I think it's good to be here again. I've been very busy with my real life. Could not spend much time on NFT space because I didn't want to mint a lot of pictures. I just wanted to keep my work limited to the blockchain, and I'm trying to remove unsold pictures. I removed like maybe 3 or 4 from my foundation already. Yeah, so I'm just trying to reduce the number of pictures which I can put up on the NFT space and make my rarity a little more better. Yeah, I'll go through this again and I'll probably make these changes maybe in another 3 4 days because that's when I'm getting back to my desktop, and I'll definitely get back to you on this. Thank you so much again, guys, for picking me up, and you guys are doing an amazing job.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, and let us know when you make an update to the collection so we can take a look at it, and so that we can tweet it out and get more eyes on it. Cool. With that being said, I think we can move over down to the last collection that we have here, which is Travel Chronicles Ocean Edition by Geoffrey Broyd. And Geoffrey wasn't originally in the AMA, but I wanted to fill another slot, and so I reached out to him and asked him if he had any works for us to talk about, because I don't believe I've talked about much of his work in the past. And he sent me this collection that he has on Sloika, which just happens to be a really beautiful collection. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to read the artist statement. Travel Chronicles. Let me open this up. It says Seymour. Sorry. So Travel Chronicles Ocean Edition is the first from a collection of 4 NFT series, which will be dedicated to my different travels around the world. Each of them will be created around a very specific theme, and will be composed of 10 stories telling you about my adventures and experiences lived through travel and photography in distinct locations. This first edition is composed of the best images I took while wandering along the coastlines of 3 countries, which are France, Iceland, and Spain. Take a seat, breathe deeply, let your imagination go. Imagine the sounds of the waves crashing against the rocks, the song of some seagulls resonating from steep cliffs, the smell of the sea salt brought to you by the wind. Imagine a fresh breeze stroking your cheeks and the thin sand running through your feet. Look up, admire the clouds moving, and feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. I travel to make photography, and I do photography while traveling. Shooting in various places with various conditions, my work never looks the same from one image to another. Each of my images is aimed to invite you to travel, and is a part of my life, a part of my best life experiences that I want to share with you. After it's sold out, all the collectors will get early access to the next series, and those who collected 2 pieces will receive a 40 by 60 print from the picture of their choice. Also, 0.5 ETH of each series will be used to invest back into the community once sold out. So I think a really, really well done artist statement. I think my favorite part of this artist statement is actually the second paragraph. It really makes me envision myself at these spaces, at these landscapes. Just reading that to myself felt meditative and made me think of the sounds and the smells and everything happening in the environment, crashing waves, the moving clouds. That was the strong point to your artist statement for me. I think this holds up in the hierarchy that of what Steve talks about. Yeah, interesting. You have some utility for the people who buy with prints or early access to the next collection. And so, with that said, series is 10. There's 7 available. It means there's 3 that sold. What I love about Sloika is we could just click and just move through these. So let's do that without even reading the description of these. I'm just going to go through and not say anything about them. I'm just going to go through and we're going to look at them. That's the last picture. So, just scrolling through those and just kind of being with the image for a few seconds. The overall feel that I get from this collection is solitude, serenity, tranquility, peace. That's how I feel when I look at the images. I think the compositions are really beautiful. The time of day that you get the images is really great. I love how you have foregrounds, middle grounds, and backgrounds, which are really important in landscape. The shutter speeds that you choose for the water is quite beautiful. Once again, being just feels like I'm being pulled out. Starting with the flowers in this bottom left, that sort of leads you into these flowers here, and then these lines and this huge rock out here just push the eyes out, and I'm just looking at this gorgeous water, these colors that are really, really beautiful and fantastic. Once again with the with the foreground, it's beautiful landscapes. They tend to, for the most part, when they're a large scale landscape, have a beautiful foreground, midground, and background, and you just have this beautiful little chunk of ice. And it's just I love the transition of color in it, or lack of color, from these monotones into these blues, look like they're in look like the color of the ocean, into these darker blues here, and then led out into this slow shutter speed. It looks like a sea of foam, which would be our mid ground there. And this wonderful sky being in the background. Pretty epic landscape shot here. For me personally, I love the beginning of this. Like these rocks are just gorgeous. I love the light on these rocks. I love these splashing, the splashes that you can see up here with the orange light coming through. It's a little bit saturated for my taste, you know. I mean, I'm not a landscape photographer, but it's just in the sky, maybe it's just got a little bit too much saturation just for my own taste. It's probably an epic sunset, though. I mean, maybe it did look like this, but it's just what I noticed. You know, this one feels pretty epic as well as far as showing scale. This rock is just majestic and colossal and looks so powerful. The waves smashing off the side of the left of this rock. The man standing here and looking out. There's something a little distracting in this area for me, though. I don't know if maybe it's this yellow here, because I think this rock is fine because it's sort of, you know, got that a little shine on it. I don't know. It's hard, you know, with landscape photography. You kind of want to be brought into a subject, and there's like these three subjects right here. You know, for me, there's two subjects in this image. It's maybe three. It's like the man, this wave in the front that's crashing, and this colossal rock with the smashing wave here. And I think, you know, this little piece on the left here is a little distracting. I probably would have clone stamped that out. Maybe would have clone stamped out this piece here, possibly this yellow. But although, you know, the hint of yellow in this is kind of nice, I don't know if it's maybe this rock, but something is taking my attention away from this colossal landscape and beauty. And for me, it's a bit saturated in the water here. I mean, if someone purchased this, so someone doesn't mind. This is like, I'm one opinion. Steve, looking at this shot, you know, it's a beautiful shot, but is there some distracting elements in the foreground here, or is it just me?
Yeah, I find the yellow to be a distraction. I mean, one could argue that it's a starting point for the eye journey, but I think the contrast, the yellow against the black rock, to me, my eye goes there and it stops. The rock in front, I would just take the shine off that a little bit. But otherwise, I love this, and I think that it's what I call a perspective setting shot. It's kind of like, you know, with the human element in there, you really get an idea of what kind of scale we're talking about here. So I think it's a beautiful shot. Me personally, I would. What is that yellow? Actually, I don't even know what it is. But I do find it a little distracting. But otherwise, what a gorgeous shot.
Right? What a beautiful show of scale. You know, it's hard to be critical at all with these because obviously Joffrey's a really good landscape photographer, but you know, this is one of my favorite ones for some reason. I think it's the simplicity of it, and the detail is just incredible. I love the details. I love the pink magenta tone. I love this angle that comes down, creates a triangle, almost just, and then this reflection, just triangled reflection without a human element. I still feel emotion from this image. And the shine on the water, the colors, I love the shot, and it's unsold. It's one of my favorites here. You know, this is probably like my least favorite in the collection, although it's still, you know, a great shot. I think the leading line is sort of distracted by this piece that sits on top of although I like the color of it, I don't know, it what it leads out to isn't really anything too spectacular. It's this piece of landscape that's out here. The element of the birds is really nice. It feels like something. It's a little bit of something that's maybe missing in the shot for me. I don't know if that's the same case for you, Steve.
I love the tones, and I'm not as distracted by the white boards on the dock as you are. I don't think it's the strongest one, but I find it serene and meditative, and he gets our eye out there, and I just noticed the birds. I hadn't noticed them at first, and no, I actually really like this actually quite a bit, and I think that I think the leading lines get us there, and that the horizon is not that far away. We could make the leap there, and in some ways, the birds actually kind of get us there. So I think this is a great shot.
Yeah, I don't think there's any weak shots in this collection at all. I think just for me, I guess that one was one of the ones that didn't draw me quite as this one. There's not many horizontal shots in this. I think there's two, but this one's it's beautiful. I mean, look at the way the water just comes around this. Like I feel like I'm there. You feel like the movement in this. And then just the colors inside of this ice, so beautiful. The detail is really, really, really fantastic. I love the whole shape of this. It almost looks like a ship. It's just beautiful. I mean, you got the other ice over there. Gorgeous shot.
This is one of my favorites. I've been to that beach, and these ice chunks. I don't know how big this is, and that's one of the cool things about it is that those ice chunks. This is probably smaller, I'm guessing, but I've seen them up to the size of cars, actually washing ashore. And
Wow.
this one looks like it's been that the weather has shaped it a bit and smoothed it out. But the long exposure for what's around the ice is great. I think. I see a lot of these shots. I think this is one of the finest I've ever seen, compositionally and in terms of just what you've done with the long exposure and the brightness of the sky in back of it. So brilliant job. And by the way, that was a great artist statement. I was satisfied to just listen to the artist statement, and obviously the pictures are gorgeous, and I wanted to see them. But after you read that, Mike, I wanted to just pause for a second and absorb it, and in my mind's eye, kind of conjure up what these images might be about. So, beautiful statement, Joffrey.
Really great job on the statement. I agree. And this is one of my favorites, too. This is one of the pieces that sold. And this is, I can understand why. Beautiful detail all the way throughout the image, from the foreground, midground, the background. You have this subject, with the legs just sort of making this triangle, looking out to the right, and just these colossal pieces of rock. I love the browns and oranges in this. Just a hint of that purple sky in there, and I love how we can see through. This sheen of water and see those rocks underneath. And I love the difference between the contrasting difference between how detailed the rocks are above the water to the ones underneath. It's very surreal. Yeah, you like this image, Steve? And then this is an image that we end on here, and this is the second. This is the only other. This is the only other horizontal landscape image in this too. And now looking at this might actually be my favorite in the set. I think this might beat out the ice one. It's just I love how the image takes me from the right side. This stone pathway, and just leads me into this beautiful rock mountain formation in the middle of the water, and then all the way up into this this house or monastery or whatever this is on top. Once again, the this beautiful work with the shutter speed, very surreal, and I love how this image is weighted. It's a lot happening off to the right side, but it is weighted nicely on the left by just these rocks that kind of sharpen out and point to the left side of the image, and the colors in the sky that weight out the left side. Really, really, really beautiful. So overall, some really, really great work here. Do you have any closing thoughts on the collection, Steve?
Sorry, I didn't unmute before. The one that the last one you showed, I think, is a gem. I mean, it really takes the eye on a journey. Literally, it's an eye journey, and it's just done so well that you follow along that path. And these other elements, like you mentioned, the rocks that are kind of sharp in the left there, they do balance it out. And I think one of the telltale signs of something that works well is you don't think about them. You don't have to. They're just doing their job in terms of the composition while your eye is going along that wall. So you really want to start at the right. You really want to climb like your cursor is going, and you really want to get up to the top there. And yeah, this hits all the high notes. The one that I was muted for, the previous one where you had talked about, and go back to that for a second. The one before this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one. I like that one an awful lot. There. Good. It's almost as if they're stepping stones for the eye, and it just takes you clean across, and then across the landform, and then out to the horizon where I believe that's a person there. It's hard to tell here. But again, it's a wonderful eye journey, and everything supports it. And I think that's one of the reasons this is a great photograph. So bravo.
Absolutely. Yeah, with that being said, I mean, I don't have anything else to say on this collection. I think it's really well presented. I love the banner. The banner's really well done. This stuff's a lot easier to do on Sloika. The collection's a lot easier to move through on Sloika. I think this collection is priced really well and will eventually sell out. And yeah, really beautiful. Yeah, with that, I think it concludes the AMA. We're almost at 3 hours, and 3 hours on what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on 8 collections is definitely giving a lot of justice to each collection and how long we've talked about it. So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, Steve. It's really been a pleasure to have you here, and I hope that in the future you will definitely be able to do another AMA with me again, because you are really a treat to work with here.
Well, I'd love to, and I'm very pleased that you asked me, and it was great to see a range of different kinds of photography here. And this has been quite an afternoon and quite a feast for the eyes. Thank you, everybody who came and put your stuff on the table. It takes guts, and hopefully there was some useful feedback there.
Yeah, perfectly said. Cool. Thank you so much, Jaden. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you to all the people who have the courage to come up and put their work on the line that comes specifically from them. Appreciate you all, and love that we've gone through this many sessions without anyone getting upset or angry or anything. And for the most part, everyone always has a positive thing to say, and has been able to transform their collections and make sales, and really honored to be able to do this and share the space with you guys. So with that said, you all have a nice day, and I'll see some of you on Twitter today, and GM.